Another day, another story. The Lincoln Memorial has been one of America's most iconic landmarks since opening in 1922. The neoclassical monument honoring Abraham Lincoln is the most visited tourist site in Washington, D.C. It appears on the back of pennies and $5 bills. Welcome to Taboo Eminent Channel. It has been both a backdrop in memorable movie scenes and center stage for seminal moments in American history, such as the 1939 concert by opera singer Marian Anderson and the 1963 "I Have a Dream" speech by Martin Luther King Jr. The Lincoln Memorial is an iconic monument located on the western end of the National Mall in Washington, D.C., United States. It honors Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, who played a crucial role in the American Civil War and is best known for his efforts to end slavery. Here are 10 facts you may not know about the Lincoln Memorial. 1. The memorial opened nearly 60 years after Lincoln's assassination. Although calls to erect a national monument in Lincoln's honor started almost immediately after his assassination, the project dragged on for decades. After the U.S. Congress in 1867 authorized construction of a monument on the U.S. Capitol grounds, sculptor Clark Mills designed a memorial tiered like a wedding cake that was cluttered with dozens of statues and topped by a bronze depiction of Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation. Fundraising, however, sputtered during Reconstruction, and the project fizzled. Not until 1911 did Congress approve $2 million to build a national memorial. After 3 years of contentious debate over its location and design and a lengthy construction process slowed by World War I, the Lincoln Memorial opened in 1922. 2. Rejected designs included an Egyptian pyramid. In selecting architect Henry Bacon's design modeled after the Parthenon in Athens, the Lincoln Memorial Commission bypassed several eccentric designs proposed by architect John Russell Pope. In addition to his preferred design for an open-air, neoclassical monument, Pope submitted sketches of alternatives that included a stepped Mayan temple with a massive eternal flame on its summit, a ziggurat topped by a statue of Lincoln, and an Egyptian pyramid with classical porticos on each side. Although passed over for the Lincoln Memorial Commission, Pope later submitted the winning design for the Jefferson Memorial. 3. A former Confederate officer broke ground on the Lincoln Memorial. At the monument's groundbreaking on February 12, 1914, Lincoln Memorial Commission member Joseph Blackburn turned the first spadeful of sod, according to the New York Times. Prior to representing the martyred president's native state of Kentucky in the U.S. Congress for nearly 30 years, Blackburn served as a lieutenant colonel in the Confederate Army during the Civil War. This memorial will show that Lincoln is now regarded as the greatest of all Americans, the former Confederate officer said at the simple groundbreaking ceremony, and that he is so held by the South as well as the North. 4. The memorial's walls and columns tilt inward. Although the memorial looks perfectly symmetrical, it's an optical illusion. The structure's exterior walls, facades and columns were purposely built to lean slightly inward, according to the National Park Service, to compensate for perspective distortions which would otherwise make the memorial appear asymmetrical. 5. Lincoln's hands carry symbolic meanings. Daniel Chester French, who sculpted the 19-foot-high statue of Lincoln for the memorial, invested considerable thought in how to position the president's hands. It has always seemed to me that the hands in portraiture were only secondary to the face in expression, and I depend quite as much upon them in showing character and force, the sculptor wrote. French depicted Lincoln with his left hand clenched to symbolize his determination to see the Civil War through to its conclusion, and his right hand open to represent a desire to welcome the vanquished Confederacy back into the Union without vengeance. 6. 6 brothers carved Lincoln's statue in the Bronx. French tasked 6 brothers who had emigrated from Italy with chiseling Lincoln's likeness out of 28 blocks of white Georgia marble. Already renowned for carving the New York Stock Exchange's pediment and the Washington Square Arch in Greenwich Village, the Piccirilli brothers carved the slabs in their sprawling workshop in the New York City borough of the Bronx. When finished, the enormous blocks were transported to the memorial and delicately assembled like puzzle pieces with nearly invisible seams. Although French proposed engraving Piccirilli brothers into the statue's plinth, the humble carvers refused the honor. 7. A giant underground chamber sits beneath Lincoln's statue. Since the Lincoln Memorial is located on land reclaimed from the Potomac River's tidal flats, 122 enormous concrete pillars and a foundation as deep as 65 feet in some spots were built to anchor the massive monument to bedrock. A three-story basement, known as the Undercroft, sits below the memorial's pink Tennessee marble floor. The cellar doesn't contain any secrets, but stalactites hang from the ceiling of the cave-like area and cartoons scrawled by the memorial's builders cover its pillars. 8. A corrected typo can be seen on its walls. A worker who possibly grabbed the wrong stencil accidentally chiseled EUTURE instead of future when etching the words of Lincoln's second inaugural address into the memorial's north wall. Although the bottom line of the E was filled in to correct the flub before the memorial's dedication, remnants of the misspelling can still be spotted by a discerning eye. 9. The dedication ceremony was racially segregated. While Confederate veterans were given seats of honor as a sign of national unity at the Lincoln Memorial's dedication on Memorial Day in 1922, gun-toting soldiers ushered black spectators far from the monument and behind a rope barrier to segregate them from white onlookers. "The conditions which confronted us as a race were most shameful," wrote W.E.B. Du Bois. Tuskegee Institute President Dr. Robert Russa Moton, the lone African-American speaker at the dedication, was barred from sitting on the platform with his fellow orators, and the White House heavily censored his speech to remove comments about the need for further progress on racial justice, such as this line about Lincoln: "This memorial which we erect in token of our veneration is but a hollow mockery, a symbol of hypocrisy, unless we together can make real in our national life, in every state and in every section, the things for which he died." 10. Friendly fire struck the Lincoln Memorial in World War II. To protect Washington, D.C., from a possible German aerial attack during World War II, the Army installed anti-aircraft guns at strategic locations around the national capital, including on the rooftops of buildings lining the National Mall. In September 1942, a crew accidentally fired 4 rounds from one of the guns. 3 errant shots struck the Lincoln Memorial's facade above the entrance. Luckily, no visitors were injured, but 1 round left a lasting scar after gouging out a piece of marble the size of a baseball. Here are some key facts about the Lincoln Memorial. Design and architecture. Architect Henry Bacon designed the monument, which resembles a Greek Doric temple. It's 190 feet long, 119 feet wide, and 99 feet tall. Interior. The interior of the memorial houses a large seated sculpture of Abraham Lincoln. The statue is 19 feet tall and 19 feet wide, representing Lincoln in contemplation. Inscriptions. The walls of the memorial feature inscriptions of 2 well-known speeches by Lincoln, the Gettysburg Address and his second inaugural address. History. Construction. Construction of the memorial began in 1914 and was completed in 1922. Civil rights movement. The Lincoln Memorial was the site of several important events during the civil rights movement. One of the most famous events was the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous, "I Have a Dream" speech. Symbolism. Symbol of freedom. The Lincoln Memorial is a symbol of freedom and equality. It represents the nation's dedication to the principles of liberty and democracy. Reflection pool. The memorial is situated at the west end of the National Mall, across from the Washington Monument and the reflecting pool, creating a visually stunning and historically significant area in the heart of Washington, D.C. Visiting the memorial. Accessibility. The Lincoln Memorial is open to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Rangers from the National Park Service are on hand to answer questions from 9:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Events. Various events, including ceremonies and rallies, are held at the Lincoln Memorial, making it a central location for public gatherings and celebrations. The Lincoln Memorial stands as a tribute to Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy and continues to attract millions of visitors from around the world who come to pay their respects and learn about the history of the United States. Whispers of wisdom. Sarah, a history enthusiast, stood in awe in front of the Lincoln Memorial. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow on the majestic structure. As she touched the cold marble, she felt a shiver down her spine, as if the monument itself held untold stories. One night, as the full moon hung low in the sky, Sarah found herself drawn back to the memorial. To her amazement, the statue of Lincoln seemed to come to life. His eyes, usually fixed in the distance, met hers with a knowing gaze. "I've seen the tides of time, my child," Lincoln's voice resonated, a gentle echo in the night. "I've witnessed the struggles and triumphs of this nation." Curiosity sparkling in her eyes, Sarah asked, "Tell me, Mr. Lincoln, what wisdom can you share?" Lincoln smiled kindly. "In the face of adversity, remember the strength of unity. I fought to preserve a nation divided, but it was the collective will and compassion of the people that mended the wounds." Intrigued, Sarah ventured, "What about freedom?" "Freedom," Lincoln said, his voice carrying the weight of history, "is a flame that can never be extinguished if nurtured by justice and equality. Every person, regardless of their origins, deserves the right to pursue happiness." Their conversation continued through the night, with Lincoln sharing tales of resilience, hope, and the enduring spirit of democracy. As the first light of dawn broke, Lincoln's form began to fade, but his words lingered in Sarah's heart. In the following days, Sarah became an advocate for unity and understanding in her community. She organized events at the Lincoln Memorial, inviting people from diverse backgrounds to share their stories, just as Lincoln had shared his with her. The whispers of wisdom from the Lincoln Memorial became a guiding light for Sarah and many others, reminding them of the enduring principles that shaped their nation. And so, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln continued, not just in the monument of marble and stone, but in the hearts of those who sought to uphold the values he so passionately believed in. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.